Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. It is Wednesday, November 26th. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to all of our American viewers and listeners. Zach, how you doing today? Apologies for the delay, everybody. Obviously, big slate charts are always going to take a little longer on a 15-game slate. But also, my parents, we got a cottage up in Michigan, so they go down to the States for American Thanksgiving to celebrate and have some beers. And they decided, yeah, let's bring my dog. They wanted to pick my dog up, bring the dog for the weekend. So I'm like, cool. They showed up right as I was about to go live. So I had to get everything in order quickly. So already a gong show turned into an even bigger gong show. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Got a different camera angle today. Not necessarily a huge fan of it, but the technical difficulties, I think I've solved them. It's an adapter issue for me. So it looks like I'm going to be hitting up the Best Buy near my place tomorrow.
I don't know if it's just the angle or not, but your hair looks drastically longer.
Oh, thank you. I got it looking nice and good today.
There you go. All right, massive 15-game slate. Let's not talk about our hair too much. We've got the Islanders hosting the Boston Bruins. Ilya Sorokin versus Jeremy Swayman. As much as we'd love to just talk about Zach's locks all day, let's get on to the hockey games. Jack Greaves starts for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's going to be projected to see Joseph Woll for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs are also going to get Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes, and Nick Waback tonight. Sergei Bobrovsky starts for the Florida Panthers. Dan Vladar for the Philadelphia Flyers. Projecting to see Andrei Vasilevsky for the Lightning. Basically starts every time other than back-to-backs with no games tomorrow. It should be him. Dustin Wolf likely to get start for the Flames. Cam Talbot will be back between the pipes of the Detroit Red Wings. To be determined who starts for the Nashville Predators. But if I know the world, like I think I know the world, after UC Saros absolutely banged me the other day, he's going to shut out the Detroit Red Wings tonight just because that's how it works. Frederick Anderson likely to get a start for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers, who are likely to get JT Miller back tonight. Jacob Markstrom gets the start for the New Jersey Devils, likely Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues. Tristan Jarry goes for the Penguins. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for the Buffalo Sabres. Charlie Lindgren goes for the Capitals. It'll be Eric Comrie for the Jets. Spencer Knight versus Philip Gustafson. Mackenzie Blackwood versus Yaroslav Askarov. Karel Vejmelka likely to start for the Utah Mammoth. It'll be Jakub Dobich for the Montreal Canadiens. Peter Mrazek starts with Lucas Dostal out for the Ducks. And Nikita Tolopilo gets the start for the Vancouver Canucks. It'll be Akira Schmid for the Golden Knights. Likely going to see Linus Ullmark for the Ottawa Senators, and it's likely going to be Joey Daccord. And as we just came live, confirmed, Casey DeSmith gets the start for the Dallas Stars. I believe we also made... No, okay, never mind. Zach, do you want to start with game number 1 or game number 2? We've got a 15-game slate on our hands, so you'll get plenty of opportunities no matter what.
Yeah, I'll roll with this one right off the top. We got the New York Islanders hosting the Boston Bruins. Islanders minus 156 favorites on the money line, 3.3 implied total for them, 2.7 for the Boston Bruins. The Islanders, not a very good defensive hockey club. Certainly been a struggle of theirs this season. About middle of the pack offensively on both sides here. The Bruins evidently playing some solid defensive hockey to start the season. Taking a look at the line stacks here, the Islanders' second line, new look, Matt Barzal, Jonathan Drouin, and my boy Anders Lee, still due for that hat trick at some point, grading out as the number 4 line to target on the slate tonight. Islanders top line coming in 14th overall. Bo Horvat, Emil Heineman, Kyle Palmieri up there. Boston 1 grading out 42nd overall. Boston 2 coming in all the way down at 63rd. Taking a look at the matchups in this game, solid pace score here in this game. It seems like one that is definitely going to be drawing some interest, not only from the public, but from me as well. This second line for the Islanders, 90.8 matchup score here tonight. Fairly solid, all things considering. Great matchup score as well for that top line of the Islanders. Things look pretty good on the Bruins front as well. Taking a look at the line stats, though, not so great on the Bruins front, especially in that top 6. Really struggling to get a whole lot going in terms of, driving play at 5-on-5. The one thing about Boston 1, as it usually is, they know how to score goals. David Pastrnak, he's pretty good at hockey with Pavel Zacha and Matej
Blumel.
Matej Blumel. There we go. Not a big pronunciation guy here. I keep looking at the wrong camera. I keep looking at my old one instead of the one that's right in front of me here. So bear with me. I'm going to get this nailed down at some point here, folks. The offensive numbers, however, I just did it again right there. The offensive numbers for the Islanders top 6 look much better here tonight, especially in comparison to the Bruins. This second line going to draw a lot of ice time here tonight, expected to play 30%. I don't think I've got a ton of interest in this game, but I think I'm going to be getting to some of this Islanders top 6 here. This second line drawing 7.5% ownership, top line coming in at under 4% here. on this slate tonight. Unders league kind of quieted down here a little bit after a nice run with a great amount of shot volume. But, Jonathan Drouin and Jonathan Drouin and Matt Barzell have been getting the job done here as of late for this Islanders team. Definitely going to have a little bit of ownership of this top line as well here. Obviously, Bo Horvat has been the big engine there for that top line. Emil Heineman just drawing 2.2% ownership. That's somebody that I think will be easy to get over the field on, considering he's just $3,500. On this Bruins side of things, I don't really know how much I'm going to get there. The public really isn't playing the Bruins whatsoever. I think David Pastrnak, I'm okay to throw, 5% ownership in at a 20 max. He's got 13 goals and 38 points in 36 games played. As for the rest of this Bruins lineup, I don't really think there's a real need to get there. Hampus Lindholm, probably another solid defensive value play here on this slate tonight. So I'd be fine with a little Pastrnak, Lindholm mini stack, but I think that's going to be about it for me. Power plays in this game. Both teams actually have solid power play matchups. So I think that's just another reason maybe to sprinkle in a little bit of that pasta tonight at $9,200. He's pretty expensive, that's for sure.
Yeah. The price tag is obviously less than ideal on pasta at $9,200, as you say, but the underlying metrics here for the Islanders really, really poor, right? Terrible defensive team, 5v5, terrible on the PK as well. So I do think there's some opportunities potentially for the Bruins to be interesting tonight. With as chalky as like Nathan McKinnon's gonna be, I think Pasta is obviously not going to draw much ownership. Considering he's $9,200, it's hard to fit those two together. So I think I'm going to play a little bit of Boston tonight just because of these underlying metrics. The sports logic data really likes the Bruins tonight. So I'm going to kind of buy into that at low ownership. I think they're kind of a sneaky play this evening with just how bad the Islanders grade out defensively. So Pasta, Hampus Lindholm, maybe a little bit of Pavel Zach, maybe a little bit of Blumel. I think I'll get to about 5% of Boston one tonight. I don't play them a ton, but I think this is a pretty decent matchup to do so. On the other side, I really don't like the Islanders, and they are drawing ownership. So I think that that's a spot that I'm going to fade and hopefully just try to get a little bit different. I think that the Bruins can win this game for sure. I think that Jeremy Swayman's actually an okay play, not a super chalk buster by any stretch, but at least a somebody that can bust some chalk, and he's only $7,200. He's going to see some ownership tonight. I think Swayman's in an interesting spot tonight. I think the Boston lineup is in an interesting spot. So yeah, top line, a little bit of Pasta, a little bit of Hampus Lindholm for me. But yeah, like you said, not going to go too crazy on this game. Any final thoughts before we get to game number 2?
No, let's keep it cruising.
It's funny that you say you look at the wrong camera because, I don't think I ever look at the camera throughout the entirety of the show. I just kind of look at the 9 screens I've got in front of me and just grind through. Sure. So the Columbus Blue Jackets will host the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. The Maple Leafs getting healthier. Meanwhile, the Blue Jackets getting unhealthier. So the top line for the Blue Jackets is still going to be without Kirill Marchenko. Luckily for them, they are going to have Zach Werenski. He's good to go. But they're also going to be without Matthew Olivier, which might seem insignificant, but that third line's been playing really, really well. So yeah, this top line, I think it's hard to have a lot of interest in the Blue Jackets without Kirill Marchenko. I think, obviously, given how poor the Maple Leafs have defended throughout the course of this season, I think that obviously you want to kind of maybe look at the Blue Jackets as a line or a team that could find some offense tonight. But I just think it's going to be so hard without Kirill Marchenko this evening. I think he's literally just as good as it comes for this team. So I think without him, it probably takes away a lot of my interest on the Blue Jackets. I think Joseph Woll has been good, not great for the Maple Leafs. I think, in comparison to what they were getting from Anthony Stolarz and everybody else before Woll came back, I think he's probably been their best option so far this season. I'm trying to pull up how Columbus won fared the other night. I'm assuming it was extremely poorly. They got absolutely dusted by the Caps. So the top line, if you bear with me, without Marchenko, got absolutely steamrolled by the Capitals. And I think that that's probably something that could happen again tonight. So, yeah, I just don't think I'm going to get to much Columbus. I think, honestly, Joseph Woll's a pretty interesting play tonight. It'll probably be the first time I've played any Toronto goalie, but at $7,500, I just don't think this Blue Jackets lineup quite represents exactly what that price tag is. So, yeah, not really that interested in Columbus. I do think I'm going to get on the Maple Leafs, but we don't know exactly how this Leafs lineup is going to look tonight. This is what I have projected. So basically, I think what we do know is that Cowan, Tavares, Nylander are going to be together. We don't really know who's going to be with Nyes and Matthews. Yesterday, it was Nick Waugh, but part of me thinks that was just like the 3 injured guys skating together because all 3 of them were questionable. I think Nick Waugh is pretty firmly entrenched as their number 3 center. Before Nyes and Matthews got hurt, Nick Robertson was spending a lot of time up there. So I have projected Nick Robertson to start with Matthews and Nyes. Cowan, Tavares, Nylander, I feel pretty good about. Obviously, Nick Waugh would then drop down to the third line. And then this Lorentz, Lott, and McMahon line skated together in practice yesterday. So I do think this is what we're going to see from the Leafs tonight. But again, just keep in mind that it is projected. Waugh did skate with Matthews and Nyes yesterday. I just don't think that's going to be a realistic situation tonight. So, yeah, I think the Blue Jackets are a team that struggle defensively. I think that the Maple Leafs are a team that just needs to get something going. I think that this is a Maple Leafs team that's pretty interesting tonight. I think getting all these bodies back, like this is kind of put up or shut up time for them. The top line has a really, really nice matchup here, seeing 56% of their ice time coming up against that Sean Monahan line. That Monahan line's really struggled defensively. This top 6 has really struggled defensively. So I think the top 6 for the Maple Leafs is in a pretty good spot tonight and really not seeing much ownership at all. They are pretty expensive, but I think that they're a pretty interesting get different spot. Especially, it Cowan up there keeps the price tag down a little bit. If it's Robertson up there, he helps keep the price tag down a little bit. Nice, $5,900. Like I do think that this Maple Leafs team is in a pretty good spot. You see here the Blue Jackets 25th and 5v5 XG, 24th in penalty kill XG. So yes, the Leafs have struggled, but they've been banged up. I do think that they're probably going to figure it out, at least offensively a little bit. And this is a good matchup to do so. So overall, the power play numbers don't bear out, tremendously for the Leafs because the Blue Jackets have been pretty disciplined this year, despite having a just atrocious penalty kill in terms of shot, chance generation. They've actually killed 80% of the penalties, but they've given up a ton of looks, which isn't surprising given how poor they are defensively. So I've got some interest on the Leafs tonight. We talk about it often. Like I think that some of the shine has rubbed off the Leafs so far this year. But I do think that like when they're low owned, they're still an interesting play. And I think tonight's matchup, like everybody slams everybody in their lineup when you play the Blue Jackets. And I think the Leafs are getting overlooked a little bit tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get there with some ownership tonight for sure. I mean, under 5% for, like what is it, 4% ownership right now on that second line, under 2% on the top line. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to get over the field on those numbers, right? The Blue Jackets are a team that has certainly had their defensive issues this year. Jet Greaves has probably been a bit better than I think anybody really expected. A 904 save percentage, 7.3 goals saved above expected, 64% quality start percentage. He's been playing a lot of hockey so far for the Blue Jackets this year. So even beyond that, like I think it's okay to get to some Toronto. I'll be over the field on them as a whole. This Columbus side of things, I just don't know how much I'm going to get to. I'm probably going to sprinkle in a little bit on this top line, a little Fantilli Voronkov. I think that's a fine route to go there. 6% ownership. I can see why they're drawing a little bit. Toronto, again, like you mentioned, has not been great so far this season, but not a ton of interest here in this one tonight.
Yeah, and I think there's a potential that, the Blue Jackets did tweet out that there's the potential for lineup shuffling tonight. Maybe Ken Johnson on that top line, Igor Chinikov moving down the lineup a little bit. So even that line's not fully together. But Voronkov and Fantilli are going to be there. And yeah, I think with the way the Leafs have struggled this year, it makes sense. Let's get to game number 3. The Florida Panthers hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. And I think the one thing I want to point out before you dive into this one is we've been talking all year about this Philadelphia Flyers being a really, really, really good defensive team. And now that we're starting to weight the team ratings a little bit towards more recent games, those defensive numbers are really starting to erode for them. They were a team that were, top 3, top 4, sometimes the top team in terms of 5v5 XG, down to 21 now. Really a team that's a little, struggling a little bit more defensively as of late. So pretty interesting shift we're seeing here with Philadelphia.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, on the other side of the coin too, and I'll get to this in a moment here, maybe a little bit of a corner being turned offensively for the Florida Panthers, who do come in tonight as the home favorites, -174 on the money line, 3.3 implied total for them, 2.5 implied total for the Flyers. As you can see, the defensive metrics for both teams have not been great this season. It does feel like, that number's starting to creep up, though, in terms of the offensive 5-on-5 numbers for the Florida Panthers. Taking a look at the matchups in this game, pretty bleak across the board. Panthers don't have any strong matchups here in this game tonight. It's got a really low pace score, 91.8. That is going to be the third lowest on the night behind Utah, Montreal, and Seattle, Dallas. Things fare a little bit better in terms of the matchups on this Flyer side, specifically for that first line. And for that third line is the one that I've been playing a little bit as of late here. Taking a look at the line stats, though, it paints a much different picture for this Panthers team. The top 9 have been solid offensively, and it feels like we're starting to see the goal numbers start to actualize. And when you look at their last, 4 games played here, 8-3 win over the Nashville Predators, a 6-3 loss to the Oilers, 8-5 win over the Vancouver Canucks. There's certainly been some offense that has finally been coming the way of these Florida Panthers. Now, I think that's a reason why I'm interested in getting on board here with the Cats tonight. Also, you mentioned, like you said, the Flyers' defensive struggles have started to kind of rear their ugly head here as of late. Evidently, this top line for the Panthers has remained solid. Lundell and Marchand have been great. That second line, Rodriguez, Reinhart, they've been great as well. Carter Verhaeghe feels like he has a couple of goals in the last week here, which is really good to see as well. Things starting to turn the corner there. The ownership is kind of interesting because it's kind of an inverse of the lines. I mean, 4.2% for that third line. That second line is drawing 3.9, and that top line 1.8. When you take a look at the overall, rankings here, nothing really jumps out as great rankings. I mean, Florida 1 coming in at 21st overall, Philadelphia 3 coming in 29th. That's probably where I'm going to stick here in this game. I think with this top line for the Panthers is one that I have the most interest in. A little bit of Philadelphia 3 as well. And, it's pretty easy to sprinkle in a little mini stack of Evan Rodriguez and Sam Reinhart. I don't think this is a game that I've got a ton of interest in whatsoever, but I think I'm willing to throw a little bit of ownership at some of these pieces here tonight and kind of see where it goes from there. Dan Vladar, certainly an interesting option between the pipes tonight at just $7,000, drawing under 5% ownership. He has remained solid this season. Quality starts in 77% of his games this year, 912 save percentage, 9.6 goals saved above expected according to Evolving Hockey. And man, his numbers against the Panthers have been shockingly good. 4 games played, 2 wins, 226 goals against average, and a 933 save percentage. So certainly some interesting routes here in this game. Again, with this low pace score, though, I don't think you need to get too crazy with the ownership here in this game tonight.
Yeah, I just this is good timing. Tom points out, Zach did not learn the lesson of we did play goalies versus Florida the other night. And that was UC Saros just shitting his pants. And like I made a face when you said Vladar because I think I am a little bit shell shocked from what happened the other night with Saros. And I agree a little bit on the Florida Panthers, but I think the one thing that's so interesting is like the teams that they've ripped apart lately. I mean, Vancouver Grey Zone is like the worst defensive team in the league. So sure, they put up an 8 spot there. The Oilers, we know, haven't been doing much defensively. They've been struggling mightily. And then the Panthers just, I mean, Saros was awful. Anuna was awful. Like, I don't know if I necessarily fully am all bought back in on the Panthers offense. I do think that a combination of a little bit of good positive regression finally setting in, good for them finally, but also some good matchups. So I think just the way that this game looks in terms of a pace score, in terms of the matchups, I don't really have a lot of interest. Nobody grading out in the top 20. I think I'm just going to fade this game for the most part. I do agree that there are some decent value options. Rodriguez, Sam Bennett, look okay. Aaron Ekblad on the blue line. There are some decent mini stacks with Rodriguez and Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Bennett. I think there's something to look at on the Philadelphia side, but I just don't think I've played Philadelphia with much success this season. And on a 15-game slate, I just think that playing this game feels like it's kind of forcing it a bit. Any final thoughts before we get to Tampa and Calgary?
No, let's keep it rolling.
CFL fans, says Reinhart, 9 points in his last 5 games played. Yeah, he's starting to heat up for sure. Let's get to Tampa and Calgary. The Lightning are expected to look pretty similar to how they did the other night. Still no braided points, so it's going to remain Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov on that top line. Nick Paul's going to move up next to Gensel and Dominic James, and then Pontus Holmberg back in the lineup. The Lightning really starting to look a little bit more like themselves. The underlying metrics look pretty strong across the board. But the Flames continue to defend very well, particularly at 5v5, but on the PK, it's been a bit of a struggle. So I think Tampa's super interesting tonight. I think with the way that they've consolidated everybody on that top line due to the injuries, I think they make some sense. They had a huge night the other night. Brandon Hagel's playing out of his mind right now at $6,200. Anthony Cirelli's price came up about $700, which is unfortunate. So $20,200. But I do think they're getting overlooked a little bit tonight. The matchup obviously not great, right? They're going to see a lot of this top six for the Flames, which is defended pretty well. I just talked about how this is a pretty good defensive club, but they've still given up 2.7 to 3.2 goals against per game. Per 60, excuse me. So yeah, this is really good underlying metrics here for Tampa 1. I think that they make some sense this evening for sure. The power play matchup is 10th. I'm not going to get too carried away with Tampa tonight, but I do think that they're going to be in the mix for me tonight, and I'll probably 10% perhaps, something along those lines. I just noticed something weird with the Tampa. Let me just see what's going on here. Tampa's line. Let me see. What do we got here? Okay. Yeah. Tampa's like top line minute projection seems off, but Cirelli doesn't play a ton, banged up one game. So I do think that you could probably bump this lineup a little bit with a little bit more usage. So I'm probably not going to get to a lot of Calgary. I feel like Andrei Vasilevsky's a strong play. He's really starting to play some good hockey right now. So I like Vasilevsky as one of the more expensive goalies tonight. So I'm probably not going to get to too much Calgary. I've been playing them a lot with moderate success, sometimes better than others. But I do think the consolidation of this top line for Tampa makes some sense, especially with the power play matchup this evening. So I'll get there for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get there with some ownership on this Tampa Bay side of things, specifically around that top line. I mean, the second line provides an interesting value option with Nick Paul and Jink Gensel there. I mean, they correlate on the top power play unit, so that's certainly a positive there. Even if the Lightning don't have the greatest power play matchup on the slate, ranking 10th overall, that little bit of extra correlation is certainly something nice. So I could see myself getting a little bit of ownership on this second line as well. But I do agree with you on this top line. I'll probably be, double the field at 10%. I think that's a pretty easy spot to get to here tonight. In terms of the Flames, doesn't feel like a great spot, that's for sure. I mean, I also think it's kind of hard to ignore what Matt Coronado has done as of late. He has been absolutely red hot, on fire. The ceiling has been strong for him. He's had great shot volume as of late as well. And I'm just trying to pull up his numbers here really quickly in front of me over his last 10 games. 5 goals, 4 assists, 44 shots on goal. I'm fine with one-offing some Coronado tonight at $5,100. If you want to play a mini stack of him with Morgan Frost, I think that's certainly an okay route to go as well. Beyond that, I don't really know if I have a whole lot of interest. I am kind of a Calgary 3 truther. The floor remains solid on Backlund and Coleman. Obviously, a bit of a revenge game narrative with Blake Coleman there, even if it's been a couple of years since he's played for the Bolts. I can see myself getting a little bit of ownership there that way, a little 5% on those guys. But that's probably going to be it for me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to update the charts here with a couple minutes additional for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So top line, I do think that was a little bit off. So why don't you get to Detroit and Nashville while I tweak some things here?
Yeah, moving on to the Red Wings hosting the Nashville Predators. Detroit coming into this game as the home favorites, minus 144 on the money line, 3.3 implied total for them, 2.7 for the Nashville Predators. Pretty crazy to see the Predators number 5 overall weighted team ranking and 5-on-5 expected goals for. I don't really know where this has come from. It feels like it's been a bit of a surprise, and I was equally surprised the other night, when they were looking like they were in a decent spot as well. They come in with the best ranking on this game tonight, 17th overall. Detroit 1 near behind at 18th overall. Detroit 2 coming in 33rd, and Nashville 2 coming in at the number 68 spot. Taking a look at the matchups in this game here tonight, tough matchups for both top lines tonight. Really poor there, but gets a little bit better the further you go down the depth chart for both sides. I just don't really know if I'm going to get down the depth charts on both sides. I think for me, it's pretty much top line or bust on both of these teams tonight. Evidently, Larkin and Raymond have been rock solid as of late. Emmett Finney cooling down a little bit from his red hot start to the season, but still a solid player on the year. 6.3 shots on goal per hour of ice time. I like to see that start to tick upwards a little bit more. So I could see myself getting to a little bit of this Detroit side, probably 5% ownership on that top line. I think Finney's okay to mix in here and there. The second line, if you want to feel a little bit bold, pretty expensive to mini stack to Brinkett and Patrick Kane, but they've been solid as of late. Their floors have been really good here over this last little stretch. This Nashville side of things, I mean, I think I can get there on a little bit of ownership on this top line. Again, with Roman Josi back, definitely changing the complexion of this team. Philip Forsberg, red hot as of late. Luke Evangelista, probably one of the best value forwards on this entire slate tonight at $3,300, projecting for 7.9 points on this slate tonight. So I think there's a reason to get to a little bit of both sides. Again, nothing crazy here. There's much better spots on this slate as a whole, but I think getting a little bit of ownership in this game with a moderate pace score is certainly a fine route to go. In terms of the power plays, pretty rough on both sides tonight. 20th ranked power play matchup for the Predators. 20th for the Red Wings, rather, 25th for the Predators. Brock, you're the resident Red Wings fan here on the show. What do you think about where your team's sitting at tonight?
Yeah, I just want to backtrack here for a second. So I did update basically a very minor bump. I overlooked one of Cirelli's games where he got hurt. So I gave Cirelli a minor bump, which helped the ice time a little bit for Tampa 1. And they jumped from, I believe, what was like 21st or whatever. Where did they end up now? They are 14th now. So small bump, but I think that is noteworthy. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I did make that adjustment up to 14th. I think makes a little bit more sense given that matchup tonight. This Detroit Nashville game, I think, is super interesting tonight. I don't know if maybe a little bit of recency bias here with just like how bad Nashville looked the other night defensively, or just how bad Saros, and like if Noonan gets the start tonight, I'm in on Detroit for sure. But even if Saros does, like I want to have some interest. My problem is I think it's gonna have to come through Detroit too, because we talked about it here. If it ends up being Larkin versus the O'Reilly line, boy, we talked about it the other day. Like this O'Reilly line, the underlying metrics are unreal. They're just caving lines in. 3.3 expected goals for per 60, just 1.7 expected goals against. Like they are dominating. And if that's the case, it's going to be tough for Larkin and Raymond to generate much tonight. So I do think that if it ends up being if Detroit ends up having a good night, I think it's going to have to come through Detroit too, who is going to draw a lot more of this middle six, basically 65, 70% of their ice time against the middle six of the Predators, which is a significantly better matchup. So I think that's the route that I'm going to go with the Red Wings. The Larkin line does a really good job defensively, so I think it is a tough matchup for the Predators. But I have a feeling like this game, I bet the over in this one. And it may be a little bit because I thought it was going to potentially be John Gibson for the Red Wings and potentially be a Noonan for the Preds. And if it ends up being Talbot and Saros, I feel a little bit worse about that. But I do think the way that this top line has been playing as of late, I'm going to probably sprinkle in some Nashville. You mentioned it. Phil Forsberg, 7K. I really, really like that price tag. I don't know how much Ryan O'Reilly I'm going to get to at 5,100. We talked about him the other day. He's a hard player to play. Doesn't have much of a floor. He can certainly get there. But I like the idea of like Forsberg, Evangelista, mini stacks, Forsberg, Roman Josi. I really like the value here with Evangelista. I think, if you want to get super cheap, I think like a Evangelista, Nick Blankenburg mini stack makes some sense. We saw a decent amount of run for that second power play unit the other night. Obviously, it was a blowout, but like Blankenburg's been playing well. Evangelista's been playing well. If you want some cheap options there, I don't mind them. So yeah, I like this game. I think it's not seeing as much ownership as potentially the fireworks suggest that. Like I think there could be potential fireworks in this one, and ownership's going to be lower than it should be. But I do think that finding the proper path to who's going to score tonight is a little bit more tricky. So for me, it's probably Nashville 1, just because I'm really confident in how good that line's been lately, and then Detroit 2, because the matchup is significantly better for them. The one thing that's worth mentioning too, JT Compher is a game time decision tonight. If he's out, it was Marco Kasper that slid up on that line. We know what that line's played together a ton in the past. They've got good chemistry, good underlying metrics, just haven't always converted at the rate they thought that we'd expect. But 16,700 if it ends up being Marco Kasper there. Any final thoughts on this one?
No, let's keep moving.
The one thing too is I had a bit of a $10,000 sweat going the other night, and I needed a little bit more Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi, and it feels like they're just going to go nuts tonight because they didn't necessarily do it for me the other night. Now they're playing the Red Wings. Like it's just like one of those things where I just have a feeling. So Carolina versus the Rangers, I think this is a really fun game as well. The Carolina Hurricanes have been just spectacular. They are a very good hockey team. The Rangers still trying to find their way a little bit. The penalty kill and power play difference here is hilarious. But yeah, like obviously a tough matchup here for the Rangers. We're talking about the Hurricanes, excuse me, haven't been maybe as dominant defensively as in years past, but that's starting to change. They're really starting to take over games. I think the one game that sticks out is that Minnesota game where Wallstead stood on his head, but like they just dominated that game. And like that can happen on any given night. And like the Rangers are not defensive slouches, but they're not great either. I do worry a little bit about how much the Rangers can generate tonight. I think it's a tough spot for them. The Carolina side of things, like I think I'm going to continue to go there on a pretty regular basis just until the price tags kind of represent as good as I think they are. And I think they're starting to come up a little bit. Particularly the second line's one that I just continue to think is underpriced. Not a lot of ownership coming in on this game. JT Miller, game time decision. I just don't really see where you go in this game with a lot of confidence. Both teams grade out super well defensively in the 5v5 charts. According to the team matchups, though, the Rangers a little bit worse defensively, and the PK is obviously quite bad. But the Hurricanes power play has struggled, 14% conversion rate this year. So, yeah, I think I'm going to get to some Carolina because I think that they can carry play at 5v5. I think they can convert on the power play. So I do believe that Carolina 1 and Carolina 2 are getting a little bit overlooked. But overall, this has the feel of like just like a 3-2 type hockey game where no one's super optimal. But I think there is the potential for a little bit of a back and forth because the Carolina Hurricanes are so good and because Frederik Andersen has struggled. So if it ends up being, if Miller plays, I think I have a little bit more interest on New York 1, which grades out in the top 10 despite the tough matchup. But at no ownership, I think in deep tournaments, they're worth a shot. And I talked about it. I'm not going to play New York 2 because Zibanejad without Panarin or Miller, the underlying metrics are horrific. So I'll just stick to New York 1 here in this spot. But again, I think it's a bit of a tough matchup. I'm probably not going to get there. The only reason to play them is because Anderson basically gives up 3 goals a game. So it is possible. They're also on the road. What are your thoughts on this one? Because I think on the surface, it doesn't feel like the best game, but I do think it's got a bit of a high scoring vibe and there's no ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I agree with you here. Like, these are two teams that we have played, with pretty fair regularity throughout the year this year. I'm going to get some ownership in this game for sure. I'm going to be over the field on pretty much everybody here tonight just because of how low owned they are. 5% on that top line for the Hurricanes, 5% that second line. Probably get a little bit on this Rangers side of things as well. And, you mentioned, some of the offense that's been seen in these, games in the past. In the last 8 games played, the Carolina Hurricanes are 6-2 against the Rangers. That includes 7-3 wins, 6-1 wins as well. There was a 4-3 win in there as well. So it has largely been one-sided. I was
just looking at that. Like they have just flat out dominated them in the last couple of years.
They really have. I mean, they really have, especially on home ice as well. So I think it's an interesting spot specifically for the Hurricanes. Like I'm going to get there with a little bit of ownership on this Ranger side of things. But, the thing is it just feels like I've been let down more often than not. I think I like the second line of the Rangers more than I like the top line here tonight. It's brutal matchups across the board for the Rangers side of things here. But, in terms of doing shit, this Rangers second line has been doing a bit more shit lately than the top line has. Much better floor. I think that's kind of the reason that I gravitate a little bit towards that second line of the Rangers. But I don't think I'm going to be getting like crazy ownership here or anything like that. But comfortably over the field on the Hurricanes, a little bit over the field on the Rangers. Let's put it that way.
Can I show you something? Go back here a little bit for the Predators game. Tom said Yossi has 18 shot attempts in his 2 games back. I want to bring up a chart that I showed on my season-long show the other day. So this is basically the amount of goals, expected goals for while a player is on the ice versus the amount of goals scored below expected or above expected, whichever way you want to go. This little guy up here all by himself, that's Roman Yossi. While on the ice, just dominating. And they are basically averaging 2 full goals per 60 while he's on the ice, or per game, while he's on the ice, and have scored basically 1 goal below expected per game. It's just unreal how unfortunate he's been. And it's interesting to note just how unfortunate the poor guy has been. So just taking a step back, I thought that chart was hilarious the other day. Let's get to the Devils and the Blues.
Yeah, a bit of a gross game here. Devils minus 131 home favorites tonight, 3.1 implied total for them, 2.7 for the St. Louis Blues, who have just struggled to do a whole lot of anything offensively this season. Defensively, they've been about middle of the pack, pretty much the exact opposite here for the Devils, who are a bit middle of the pack, number 12 overall in terms of offense, 24th, and in terms of defensive play. Taking a look at the line stacks in this game, New Jersey 1 grades out tremendous. There's certainly a line that I'm going to have some ownership of here tonight. Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, Jesper Bratt. They have been rock solid. Crazily enough, the top-ranked St. Louis Blues line is the third line. Pius Suter, Jordan Kyrou, and Dylan Holloway. I do tend to agree with that. I mean, I think if there's anybody from this Blues team that I'm playing right now, it is going to be that third line, specifically a Holloway Kyrou mini stack. New Jersey 2 coming in 39th overall, and St. Louis 1 and 2 well down the charts here tonight. I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I think I'm going to get a little bit of ownership here, though, especially on this top line. For the New Jersey Devils, they have been tremendous since they have been put together. This second line, I think, offers a little bit of salary relief. Dawson Mercer, Arseny Gritchuk, mini stack is certainly a viable route tonight. I don't mind getting there. This blue side of things, man, like just beyond this third line, I just can't get anywhere here, I don't think. And the public pretty much agrees. There's no ownership coming in on this top six and an extremely small amount coming in on this third line. I think for me, like I said, this third line, little mini stack of Holloway, Kyrou is probably the route that I'll go tonight. 5% of those guys, and that's probably going to be it from this side. Talk about the goaltending a lot. Future Edmonton Oilers netminder Jordan Binnington has not been great this season. Jacob Markstrom has also not been great this season. The one thing about Markstrom is goals saved above expected numbers are starting to kind of climb a little bit. Now it's only negative 2.7. For Binnington, however, still negative 8 on the year. Which is the second worst mark of all 75 goaltenders that have played a game this season in the NHL. He has been really bad, but he has also, for some reason, been really good against the Devils in his career. 10 games played. He's got 6 wins, 2 shutouts, a 232 goals against average, and a 923 save percentage. For me, I want to see Binnington continue to struggle until he's traded to the Edmonton Oilers, and then he can turn it on and become one of the better goalies in the world again. So definitely got some interest in this Devils side of things tonight. It looks pretty gross for the Blues. The matchups really aren't great across the board here for this Devils side of things tonight. It definitely fares better for St. Louis, but again, I just don't know how you can go out there and trust them right now, especially that top six, because when you look at the line stats, it is absolutely abysmal what they're doing offensively within this top six right now, which feels really unlike what we've seen from the Blues in years past. So for me, top six of the Devils, definitely gonna have some ownership there, a little bit of sprinkle on this third line of the Blues, and that is probably going to be about it in this game for me.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet here. Not a lot of interest in this game. I'm not playing the Blues. They just don't do anything offensively. I don't care. I'm not playing them on a 15-game slate. The charts don't like them. I don't like them. New Jersey 1 grades out 6th. I'll get there. For sure. The underlying metrics since this line's been put together about 60 minutes, 2.96 expected goals for per 60, 34 scoring chances, 17 high danger. They've been really good. They got a good floor. The matchup's pretty good. If Binnington continues to suck, they're going to be in a good spot tonight. The power play matchup is good, right? 5th best power play up against the 14th ranked PK, 75% PK rate for the Blues. The problem is the Blues are extremely disciplined, so not a lot of opportunities. Overall, I think it's a pretty low scoring game. Don't really have a ton of interest. I think the over could definitely hit in this game just based on the goaltending matchup, but in terms of a DFS standpoint, I don't really know if any one line's going to dominate. If anyone was going to, I think it's New Jersey 1, so they'll have a little bit of my ownership tonight. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. The Sabres continue to grade out very well at 5v5, but the Penguins, man, have been really good on the PK. The special teams have been special for the Pittsburgh Penguins this season. Basically a coin flip game here. The Sabres are also starting to get a little bit healthier. It does not look like Josh Norris. He did skate yesterday, but by all accounts, it doesn't sound like he's going to play tonight. So we are expected to see a very similar lineup. When he is back, I imagine he's going to be on the second line for Ryan McLeod, bump McLeod down. He's also going to be on PP1, but with Tristan Jarry back between the pipes tonight, I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are positioned a little bit better in the crease. I just don't know who to play in this game. I don't really think that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a high scoring game. Don't get me wrong, but I think the price tags are starting to get up there for both of them. Like Crosby and Rust are really expensive. Rust has been battling an illness throughout the week. I think there's some decent value options in Buffalo, like Jason Zucker at 4,000, Josh Doan 4,700. But I just don't know where to go for sure. I think with the second line having a great matchup here for Buffalo, you can play a little bit of that Zucker one-off potentially. The top line's got an okay matchup. I think you can get to some Tage and some Doan. The top line for the Penguins has a really good matchup. Like I think obviously Crosby and Rust and company are always in play. I don't know how I feel about their offensive upside with Connor Dewar up there, but or Dewar up there, but yeah, I just think the price tag might be a little bit too rich for me on Pittsburgh one. The power play option tonight, though, like I said, the power play has been special for the Penguins. The problem is the PK has been really good for the Sabres as well. So by and large here, I think this is a game that I'm going to avoid for the most part. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've kind of got interest in this game. The matchups are great for this top line here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm certainly going to be getting ownership on them here tonight. I'll be over the field, not by a crazy amount or anything like that, but, sub 3% ownership on Crosby and Rust in a really good matchup here tonight. I think there's a reason to get there. Evidently, the power play is a certain boost to that as well, because like you said, they've been just so good this year. It's worth mentioning that the Sabres, penalty kill has also been really good this season. Somewhat undisciplined the Sabres are, 3.0 times shorthanded per game. I just think that with the way this power play has been so potent as of late for the Penguins, that this seems like a pretty decent spot for them. And, I think the Sabres penalty kill has been really good as of late. The expected goal against numbers are significantly lower than the actual goal against numbers. So probably getting a little bit bailed out by the goaltending, on the penalty kill here as of late. And it feels like this is a spot they could take advantage of, the Penguins could take advantage rather. UPL hasn't really played a lot this season, definitely seeming kind of disgruntled out there in Buffalo. So I don't mind the idea of getting there. And I think for that reason, I'll have a little bit of ownership on this second line as well. They look like they're in an okay enough spot here at 5-on-5, but again, some power play correlation there with Malkin and Mantha. I think that's certainly a viable route to go. I also don't mind the idea of getting to some of this Sabre side as well. I mean, the metrics have been solid for them this season within this top six, with Jason Zucker back there on that second line, adding another nice dimension that kind of helps round out the offense here on this top six. I don't really know how much you can trust the Sabres here, just as a whole as of late, but I don't mind the idea of throwing 5%, at that top line and that second line as well. So I think this is a game I'm definitely going to be getting some ownership on tonight. It's got a pretty solid pace score. The matchups are great for Pittsburgh 1 and for Buffalo 2. That's probably where more of the ownership will be consolidated for me.
Yeah, like I think most of my issue with Pittsburgh 1 tonight is just the fact that they're really expensive. I don't think they're a poor play. I just think the pricing is a little bit high. But I mean, it is Sidney Crosby after all, so it's not, outlandish. And yeah, like I think that the power play can certainly still carry them tonight. The ownership at least is extremely low. So I think that makes them appealing, just given the ownership there. One thing I want to mention before we move on to the next game, since Doan was moved up with Tage Thompson and Tuck, underlying metrics for that line have been absolutely outstanding. 3.9 expected goals for per 60, 35.9 scoring chances for, 18.5 high danger chances. So they've been really, really good. If you want to go back to the well there with Buffalo 1, their underlying metrics have been outstanding since the Doan promotion. Let's get to Washington and Winnipeg. Now, this is a game that I last night bet the over, and then added to the over today when Charlie Lindgren was confirmed. So really like this game environment tonight with the Washington Capitals and the Winnipeg Jets. Zach, I just want to bring up, we talk about the Capitals a lot on this show because the charts just absolutely love them, and they continue to grade out well on a night-to-night basis. And me and you were extremely heavy on Washington 2 the other night because since Justin Serdif was moved up to that line, surprisingly enough, it has just unlocked this line, and their underlying metrics have just been unbelievable. And maybe we did the public or our listeners a little bit of a disservice by not talking about this on the show the other day, but 5.3 expected goals for per 60. 41.5 scoring chances for per 60, 25.6 high danger chances for per 60, Granted, it's only in about 68 minutes together, but my goodness gracious, the underlying metrics are outstanding. We put them together in our lineups a lot the other night, a lot of Chikrin, a lot of Wilson, a lot of Sardif, and it worked very, very well. It was the reason that I was sniffing 10K. So with Comrie in between the pipes tonight, even though this Winnipeg's Jets, defensively are improving a little bit, without Hellebuck, they're certainly still gettable.
Oh, they certainly are. This is a game that I've got a lot of interest in. Washington Capitals coming in as the home favorites, minus 140 on the money line, 3.5 implied total for them, 2.9 for the Winnipeg Jets. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, Washington 1 grading out number 3 overall in the charts tonight. Winnipeg 1 not far behind at 7th overall, and Washington 2 coming in right at that number 15 mark. I'll just cut to the chase with Washington 2. This looks like a tremendous spot for them. Taking a look at the matchups here on this game tonight, 89.9 matchup score for Washington 2, expected to play 57% of their ice time going up against the Jets top line, which is key for a significant reason. That Jets top line is their worst line defensively. They have really struggled defensively so far this season. This seems like a really good spot for the Washington Capitals. Evidently, the power play has not been clicking whatsoever this season, but that hasn't really held them back offensively whatsoever. Because again, like you said, those metrics on that second line have been absolutely tremendous. To a man, I'm going to be well over the field on Washington tonight. I think this is an absolute smash spot for them. They look great in terms of the line stats. The matchups are really strong. The numbers offensively are just out of this world. Even with if you pull up the line stat, oh yeah, you got it right here. Just look at these numbers offensively. The metrics are tremendous. This Justin Sardif guy has been awesome. He was acquired last year, I think it was, at the deadline for like a 2nd and a 6th round pick, and everybody was kind of like, who? But boy, this guy has really been showing up here as of late. This line as a whole has looked really, really good. So fire me up some Washington tonight. I'll be well over the field on this top 6. Dylan Strome, Alex Ovechkin, obviously up there on that top line. I'm fine getting there. Probably not feeling the best about Dylan Strome as of late. The floor hasn't really been there a whole lot to speak of, but Alex Ovechkin continuing to carry the load offensively with his goal scoring, 1.7 goals per hour of ice time this season, shooting 22%. The Winnipeg Jets side of things, I'll probably throw a little bit of ownership at this top line just because it's so consolidated offensively. But, they're really struggling to kind of drive play offensively this season. These defensive metrics have had them hemmed into their own zone a little bit more often than not as of late. They're still shooting the lights out, 3.7 goals for per hour of ice time combined. I think I'm okay getting there, especially as you mentioned with Charlie Lindgren getting the start tonight. So this is one of those games where I'm certainly going to be over the field in terms of the ownership as a whole tonight. As to be expected, the power play matchup is not great here for the Washington Capitals, but it looks like a really solid spot for the Winnipeg Jets coming in with the 2nd-ranked power play on the entire slate tonight. So obviously full correlation on that top unit for Winnipeg 1. Definitely going to be firing up some ownership on them tonight.
Yeah, I have some concerns about Winnipeg 1 just because if they are spending a lot of their 5v5 time against that Washington 2 line, they're only giving up, they're just dominating play so much that they're only giving up like 1.95 expected goals against per 60, 22 scoring. Like they're just dominating line. So I have concerns about Winnipeg 1 for that reason, but with the power play matchup, what it is, I think it's an okay click. I do have some concerns that you're a little bit too reliant on the power play tonight at 20,600. It feels a little bit risky to me. So I probably won't have a ton of Winnipeg 1, if any, but boy, the ownership here on the Washington Capitals looks just super appealing. Like the second line, man, like those underlying metrics are just so insane. They're $12,400. So you've still 2,800. Easily one of my favorite value plays in the night. Like I love this line again tonight. I'm certainly going to get there. I think that they can just dominate this matchup against the Winnipeg Jets first line that just has not been very good defensively. And then the top line for the Capitals, like I don't want to just give Washington 1 all the flower or Washington 2 all the flowers here. 3.6 expected goals for per 60, 34 scoring chances, 15 high danger chances. We talked about, we've been beating the drum on Strome and Ovechkin, just drastically improving their 5v5 metrics. It's like Ovechkin can only have one or the other. It's either he just is amazing at 5v5 or amazing on the power play. And he was amazing on the power play for like 25 years. And now it's all of a sudden not. And then the 5v5 numbers come alive. So yeah. super good low owned spot tonight. I absolutely love the Capitals this evening. I felt like I had one more thing to say, but I don't remember what it is. So let's move on to Chicago and Minnesota.
Yeah, we got the Chicago Blackhawks hosting the Wild here tonight. Plus 116 on the money line for the Blackhawks. 2.8 implied total for them.
It's my game to break down, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. So sorry.
There.
Yeah,
no,
my bad.
okay.
I'm like, I think it. Sorry.
I was like, okay, I'll take it. No worries. No worries.
It's okay. It's actually probably good that I take it because I have no interest in this hockey game.
Oh, perfect.
Like, I think you could probably talk about the Minnesota Wild a little bit. The Wild are defending pretty well now. Not amazing, certainly. But, like, I just don't play the Blackhawks ever. The Wild, 13th best on 5v5 expected goals against, 19th penalty kill. I just don't really see a way that the Blackhawks get there. Like, yeah, I think, I feel like when I do this show, it comes across that I'm like a Connor Bedard hater. That's at least how it feels. It's just not the case. Like, I do think he's a good hockey player. The underlying metrics are fine. I just feel like it's always just, it's hard for me to get there at $8,400. And then now you got Burakovsky's price tag coming up. Like, I just don't think I'm clicking on Washington tonight. The field isn't either, so I don't feel that bad about it. Minnesota's drawing a healthy amount of ownership, but like, I just don't think there's gonna be a lot of goals in this game. Like, the matchup for Minnesota one's really good. They should dominate that Bedard line, which just got disastrous defensive metrics. So, like, I think you could probably get to some Kaprizov. You could probably get to some Danil Urov at 2,900 is a nice value option. Zuccarello's played well. Like, I think Minnesota one makes some sense. The second line's been really good. Their matchup's not quite as good. Like, I'll probably sprinkle in some Minnesota, but overall, I mean, Spencer Knight has still been unbelievable. I just feel like there's not going to be a lot of goal scoring in this hockey game. But if it were to be, if any team is going to score 4 goals in this game, it feels like it's probably the Minnesota Wild, and it's probably coming obviously from that top 6. And whether one line dominates or the other remains to be seen. If you want to play all of them, the power play matchup is pretty good. Although the Blackhawks have done a decent job on the PK, but just below average in terms of the overall rating, but have killed 83% of the penalties this year. And it's not like the Wild power play is amazing, but the problem for the Blackhawks is they're terribly undisciplined. So, yeah, I don't know what to do with Chicago. I basically fade them every time. It's worked sometimes it hasn't, but I'll probably sprinkle in some Minnesota. You certainly play more Chicago than I do. So tell me why I'm an idiot.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like an idiot because I took Connor Bedard's under goals on the season, which does not feel very good right now. So I'm trying to like kind of make up for that by playing a little bit more Connor Bedard in DFS this year to hope.
Did you take that though because you used my projections? So technically I'm still the idiot and you just didn't want to say it?
Technically, but hey, I'm the one who picked the play on my slip. So I had a big season long 8-leg parlay on the year that's not looking very healthy right now. I do think that I'm fine playing Bedard on a regular basis. I think for me the big thing is like it feels like he's at his best or he's his most valuable from a DFS perspective when he's playing with Tyler Bertuzzi. When Bertuzzi's up there on that top line is when I have most interest in getting after Connor Bedard. Certainly not the case here tonight. I might throw 5% ownership because he's just been so good offensively as of late here. But at $8,400, it's definitely a kind of plug your nose sort of a play. I'm okay getting some ownership on the Wild here as well. 5-10% in total here. I think attacking through the power play is certainly the route to go here. Evidently pretty easy to do. When it comes to, the way they have these lines constructed. Zeev Buyen back up there on that top power play unit, Kaprizov, Zuccarello on the top line, Eriksson, Boldy on the second line. That's probably the route I'm going to go. 5% for each of these lines. Maybe another 5% on a power play stack. That's all the interest I'm going to have in this game. I do like Spencer Knight tonight. I think he's certainly viable at $7,500.
Yeah, if you want me to pour some cold water on the Minnesota top line a little bit, I mean, it's a very small sample size, obviously, since Urov has been up there, but just 2.3 expected goals for per 60. So it just does not feel like a high-scoring game. Oh, boy. We got the Colorado Avalanche hosting the San Jose Sharks. They are minus 374 home favorites tonight, 4.0 implied total. This looks like very, like, could Nathan McKinnon possibly be the highest owned player ever on a 15-game hockey slate?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's projecting for 14% ownership, and that honestly feels like a conservative number.
He'll be 25. Like, Break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Colorado Avalanche, massive favorites tonight. Minus 374 on the money line. 4.0 implied total for them. 2.1 for the San Jose Sharks. Let's cut to the chase, man. I mean, there's no need to bury the lead as Brock steps away from the camera for a second. So no worries there. Just, quickly to touch on these weighted team ratings, right? I mean, look at this offensive number for Colorado. They have been absolutely tremendous this season. Defensively, they're still kind of trying to find their way. And this power play too is like one area where it's like, when is it going to kind of turn around? Maybe tonight, maybe this is the route to go. But listen, I mean, they grade out number one on the charts overall for a line stack. They look to be in an absolute smash spot. They're very expensive, $23,400 to full stack. Colorado won. I think they're in a great spot tonight. If you take a look at the matchups here as well, fairly solid across the board for the Colorado Avalanche side of things, fairly not good across the board for the San Jose Sharks. So I can see why Colorado is getting the ownership they are. Even this second line ranking number 13th overall, they're actually projected for more total ownership, 10.1% than the second line. And again, when you look at the line stats for this top six, absolutely tremendous. The big issue right now with Colorado too is that they just haven't really been finding a way to score goals. Gabe Landeskog, he's been getting a number of quality looks, 1.2 individual expected goals per hour this season, just 0.4 actual goals scored, shooting 6%. Ross Colton, very similar, 1.5 individual expected goals per hour of ice time, 10.8 shots on goal per hour, 0.7 goals per hour, shooting just like 7% on the season. This feels like a spot where that could certainly turn around here. This looks like an absolute smash spot for the Colorado Avalanche. I can certainly see why the field is getting there with so much ownership tonight. I mean, I'm going to be getting there. I'll be meeting the field, probably a little bit over the field as well. I think the only thing that maybe is cause for the slightest amount of hesitation is Yaroslav Askarov. He has been really, really, really good this season. 14 starts on the year. He's got 8 wins, 64% quality start percentage, 910 save percentage, 14 goals saved above expected. He's got 1 win in his 1 game against the Avs in his career, 1.94 goals against average, 974 save percentage. He certainly has the potential to stand on his head and completely bust this chalk tonight. It's going to be a tough situation. He's going to face an absolute mountain of volume tonight. But I just have a hard time seeing Colorado not smashing tonight. I'm fascinated to see what this ownership comes in at because, like whatever you want in the chat mentions, like there's so many value options on this slate tonight with it being a 15 gamer that it feels really, really easy to get to Colorado 1 tonight, which is kind of a terrifying proposition. So I'm in agreement with the field here. I'm going to have a lot of Colorado tonight. This looks like a smash spot. We need Marsharks in the chat to let us know what to do with San Jose Sharks tonight because Macklin Celebrini projects very, very well tonight. 11.4 projected points. This top line, at least, in their raw projection, grade out pretty well. William Eklund and Will Smith. But boy, they're going to be absolutely underwater here tonight. San Jose 1 is going to be spending pretty much all 80% of their ice time against the top 6 for the Colorado Avalanche, who, not only have they been, sorry, what's that?
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed, right? I mean, if you look at the defensive metrics for the top 6 of the Avalanche, Colorado 1 has been their worst defensive line, but they're about league average, and they're only giving up 1.6 goals against per hour, and that's probably just because they spend all of their time in the offensive zone. So it feels really, really tough to get to much of the Sharks tonight. I might throw 5% ownership at that top line just to get a little bit contrarian here. Sharks absolutely nails it there. I think the defensive plays on this blue line tonight for the Sharks are certainly going to be viable. Mario Ferraro, Timothy Liljegren, Vincent Desharnais, shot block gods.
Mario Ferraro is going to have 11 shot blocks tonight. Okay. I'll keep it quick. We got to move this along very, very quickly here, coming up on an hour already. San Jose, I don't play them usually. I don't want to come across as a Celebrini hater either, but underlying metrics are underwhelming, and they're too expensive in this matchup. The Avs have just been steamrolling everybody. It seems like everybody's starting to come on board to the Colorado 2 train. I've been talking about him for weeks. Obviously, the promotion for Gabriel Landeskog to the top power play unit is the reason why he's drawing such considerable ownership. That power play has struggled this year. Moving Gabe up there is the newest wrinkle for them. So this is a look at their top power play unit. That's why he's drawing so much ownership. But that line, Brock Nelson, Ross Colton, really good shot volume from those two at 11,300. I love them as a value option tonight for sure. Colorado won like mini stacks, full stacks, McKinnon, McCarrs, doesn't matter. Yes, Ashcroft's been great. This is still a team that's struggling defensively. No one, the best, mere mortals, have struggled against this Colorado Avalanche team. They are just crushing everybody. So no reason to think that won't continue tonight. Utah and Montreal, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time here unless you have any strong feelings. Like I think that Utah is a team that, doesn't grade out amazing, and neither does Montreal. Montreal is very good defensively and piss poor offensively. So basically every Montreal game is not going to look great in the charts. Utah, obviously, Logan Cooley just went absolutely bananas the other night. Can he do it again? I think the price tag is healthy enough that you could certainly click on them. I think the top line, you could click on them, but it's a good defensive Montreal team. It's a low total game. We know Utah does a very good job limiting the opposition. I just don't see this being a very high scoring game. The 5v5 metrics aren't great, or matchups aren't great. The power play matchups aren't great. The top line in this game grades out 24th. Not a game that I'm going to play a lot. I'm pretty interested to see that this game is drawing significantly more ownership than the Washington-Winnipeg game, which is a game that to me feels like a significantly better game environment. I'm also pretty interested that Barrett Hayton is drawing 9% ownership tonight. So yeah, this is interesting. And also, being a Celebrini hater, I think, is defensible. Being a Bedard hater is just despicable. I'm not a hater of either. I just am not a big believer from DFS standpoint and worth paying the $8,000 and because of what they've done in the past. I don't really think it's going to happen again. Both seem very unsustainable for what they've done so far. I'm not a hater of either. I just think the metrics. I'm just a numbers guy. So Utah, Montreal, what do you got?
I think the reason that Hayton is drawing that ownership is just solely because he's $3,100.
For sure.
There's not really a lot of great cheap options up the middle tonight. And I think he's kind of dragging Keller and Schmaltz along in terms of the total ownership that way. The one thing that I will say about Utah one is that Keller and Schmaltz have both been unreal against the Canadians in their career. Keller, 3 goals, 17 points in 14 games played. Schmaltz, 5 goals, 15 points in 14 games played. I'm probably going to get a little bit of ownership on Utah one here tonight just to kind of meet the field at 5%. I don't think I'm going to be going over the field in any sense of the term in the rest of this game, though. It has, I think the second lowest pace score on the night as a whole. It does not feel like a great game environment, but I am ready to move along to a game that does have a really good game environment.
Yeah, let's get to the Anaheim Ducks and the Vancouver Canucks. This already had the feel of a high scoring game, right? This is the 31st and 32nd ranked 5v5 defenses. Both teams struggling a little bit, offensively as well. But boy, when you factor in now that it's going to be Peter Mrazek for the Anaheim Ducks and Nikita Tolopilo for the Vancouver Canucks, I was already interested in the Anaheim Ducks and the things with Tolopilo projected to get the start last night. But with Peter Mrazek, I think it leaves the door open for a little bit more from the Vancouver Canucks. But man, I do think that they have become kind of increasingly difficult to trust. There was a stretch of time there where the underlying metrics were starting to look okay, but I still don't really know what to make of this squad. Take it away, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. The Ducks are home favorites, minus 149 on the money line, 3.6 implied total for them, 3.0 for the Vancouver Canucks. The team ratings are just terrible across the board, offensively and defensively for both of those teams. That leads me to believe it's going to be an absolutely wide open game. When we take a look at the line stats in this one, Anaheim ranking number 2 overall, Anaheim 2 coming in at 5th overall, Vancouver 1, 19th overall. I'm in agreement on those spots. I think these are certainly 3 viable lines to get to tonight. The matchups are incredible across the board. The pace score is absolutely massive. And the offensive metrics, especially from, let me just say solely from the Anaheim Ducks side of things, are unreal in the top 6. Some of the best, offensive lines in the entire NHL as of late here. This top line is drawing a lot of ownership. Cutter Gauthier up there on that top line with Leo Carlson and Beckett Seneke.
So much fun.
Man,
just
they're
the most fun.
They are like this is a fun Anaheim Ducks team to watch. And I'm very much enjoying playing them in DFS this season. And big surprise, I'm going to continue to do so here tonight. I'm all over this top line for the Anaheim Ducks. I'll be over the field on them, in my 20 max tonight. Got some interest in the second line, even though I don't feel as good. Mason McTavish, kind of been a disappointing season, and then a guy in Chris Kreider who is pretty much goal or bust here at this point right now.
This
good
point,
shot
volume. Whole career.
Oh yeah, it's true. Honestly, the shot volume just hasn't really been there. Troy Terry still chugging along though. Overall is a fairly solid play. So fire me up on ownership here. For this Anaheim Ducks side of things. The Vancouver Canucks, man, it's tough. Like it's tough to kind of get there. You talk about how it feels like there was a bit of a point in time where they were viable. The numbers have dropped off a little bit here, but even over their last 10 games, Vancouver won. Their floor has been really solid. Among all lines in DFS tonight, they have got the second highest floor over their last 10 games of any line, second to only Colorado 1. Colorado 1's floor on average 16.9 points, 16 points on average for Vancouver 1. So I'm going to be getting there with some ownership on this Canucks top line as well. The power play matchup is obviously really strong. The Canucks power play has been tremendous this year for like whatever reason. You'd like to see the overall percentage increase a little bit, just at 23.4% right now. But going up against an undisciplined Ducks team who take a lot of penalties, both power plays are certainly going to be viable in this game here tonight. I love this from a game stack perspective. I love this from a mini stack perspective. I love this from one-off perspectives. I just kind of love this game as a whole. Probably not going to get to. Yeah, I know. Like it really is. Probably not going to get to a lot of the depth pieces here on this Canucks side of things. I think Besser Garland minis are viable, not overly expensive there. They've been solid as of late. Listen, the Vancouver Canucks are open for business, man. Guys like Evander Kane, they're going to want to be showing up here in some of these games over this next little stretch with, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin putting out the bat signal that the vets are available. I love this game, and I know you do too.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet again. Vancouver 1 seems interesting. The floor is good. I've liked DeBrusk all season. Kane shot volume is great. Pettersson at $7,100 feels a little pricey, but this is a great game environment. I do think they're going to just be trading chances. Vancouver 2 cannot convince me to play a line with David Kampf as the center. The underlying metrics for David Kampf since coming over to the Canucks are just atrocious. 1.5 expected goals for, 3.5 expected goals against. They're going to just get absolutely bombed by this top 6 of the Ducks. The top line of the Ducks is obviously feels like a nuke tonight. I'm horrified to see what the ownership is going to be. Horrified. Projected at 11%. Cannot imagine that ends up being the case. I hope it is. It'd be great if it is. That feels low. So even on a 15-game slate, it feels low. I just don't know what else to say. Anaheim 2, I think, is fine, but I just see no reason not to click on Anaheim 1. But Troy Terry projects extremely well. He's going to draw a lot of ownership. McTavish down to 4,400. Like, they're a lot cheaper, so they might draw some steam too. But boy, Anaheim, it's going to be closer to 20. I agree on Anaheim 1's ownership, which is unfortunate, but super great game here. Vegas, Ottawa, not really a super great game. Both teams defend extremely well. Both teams pretty good underlying metrics at 5v5 on both sides of the puck. Both teams good on the PK. I think the one most interesting part about this game is just like seemingly out of nowhere, Mark Stone is back. So Braden Bowman loses a little bit of his lust. He's still on that top line with Jack Eichel, but he's off the top power play unit, which is where he's done most of his damage. They also broke up Hurdle, Dorofeyev, and Marner, which, I mean, this team is so deep. It's insane. But I just don't really think this is a great game. You talk about the other one. Like, I think it'll be a good hockey game, but I just don't like both teams defend so well. Both these teams grade out super poorly. You take a look at the power plays. There's not really a whole lot going on there either. Maybe a decent power play matchup or a pretty good power play matchup for Vegas. But I'll probably click on a little bit of Vegas, but that's probably the extent of it. Marner at 5,700 is a little too cheap. Stone at 5,400 feels a little too cheap. He was great before he got hurt. I think that as a mini stack is interesting to get some power play correlation as well. The top line now doesn't correlate to the top power play unit. the third line with Dorfeev and Hurdle still decent mini stack option. Obviously losing Marner hurts, but yeah, like for me, most of my interest coming in here on the Vegas side of things, I'm not going to play Ottawa. Despite as good as they've been, like 5,600 for Pinto seems a little too expensive. I feel like he's kind of peaked. The top line's been good, but this has a lot of feel, and I was absolutely bang on in my assessment of the LA Ottawa game the other night. Loved Darcy Kemper. I feel very similar about this game. I don't have as much confidence in Akira Schmid as I did Darcy Kemper, but like I do think this is a game where Vegas wins. I do think this is a lower scoring game that I'm probably not going to play a whole heck of a lot of. But you got to give Akira Schmid some flowers here. 9-1-3 with a 245 goals against average and 902 save percentage this year. But boy, to be 9-1-3 with a 36% quality start percentage is hilarious. But yeah, I just don't love this game really. And quite honestly, I think we could probably talk about the second game at the same time as we try to wrap things up quickly here. Not a lot of love for that second game either, right? Seattle defends extremely well. I mean, maybe not, top 10 still. They don't do anything offensively. The Stars are very good defensively. I think the one thing that you could say is the Stars power play is likely to stay hot. They have the third best power play matchup. So I'll probably get to some Dallas. Of the four of these teams, I would rank them in terms of Dallas, Vegas, Ottawa, and then I'm never playing Seattle. So what are your thoughts here on these final two games as we try to wrap things up?
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I mean, I think for me, the way that I'm looking at these last two games is just targeting power plays for Dallas and Vegas. I think that's the route to go. It's what we've been doing for most of the year with both of these clubs. It's what I'll be doing again tonight. That's pretty much my only thoughts here.
Yeah, like I think it's insane how just unbelievably unstoppable the Dallas power play is.
I mean, look at what they did last night, for God's sake.
Without Mikko Rantanen. Like,
Absurd.
this power play is unstoppable. So let's just bring up some Dallas ownership here as we close out this kind of breakdown. Obviously, nobody grades out particularly great in terms of 5v5 stacks, but like at 2% ownership, like I'm going to play some Dallas power play. They're just inevitable. It does not matter who they're up against. They just are going to convert. Seattle, fairly disciplined, but I just, honest to God, like when you watch that Dallas power play, it's so methodical. Like it's intimidating as hell. The way they just like seemingly aren't trying. And they're just like ping, 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 ping scores. Like they're unreal. It's sick to watch. It's absolutely sick. I'm sure you probably weren't enjoying it that much last night, but like you have to admit, it is just, even without Rand, it's so methodical and just so slow moving and just amazing. It's like watching a ballet.
It's Glenn Gulletson, baby.
Yeah, he's sick. I absolutely love it. Let's get to some defensemen and some goalies, and we'll get you on your way. It's already 5:10 Eastern here. Okay, Charles-Edouard Datou. I just love this guy, man. He just grades out so well, even though he doesn't seemingly ever perform. I don't know why he continuously grades out so well. Let's grade out by ownership here. It's a 15-game slate. It's hard to break shit down. Cam York getting some steam tonight. I think he's an okay play, but man, Jackson McComb, really like him at $4,900. Makes a boatload of sense there. Some of these other, Ben Sherratt, $3,200, $3,200. That like Ben Sherratt chalk is hilarious. A lot of really cheap defensemen. You can see, right? People are trying to jam in these expensive guys, trying to jam in the Colorados and the Anaheims and whoever the hell else they're jamming in. A lot of cheap chalk tonight on the blue line, and I think it makes sense. So guys, our charts really like in terms of value options tonight. Noah Hannafin continues to grade out really well at 4K. Charles-Edouard Datou, $2,600. Simon Nemec, $3,900. Louis Crevier, $2,800. JJ Moser, absolutely love that play. Gustav Forsling, Philip Hronik, Nick Blankenberg, Radko Gudas, Sam Alinsky. Artem Zub continues to grade out well. Anybody else that I haven't talked with that you just love? I mean, we got to talk about Matthias Samuelsson, the most unsustainable production in the league. Who else do you like?
Get the Samuelsson while it's still hot. A couple cheap guys, Gudas, Rasmus Sandin, I think is a solid play. Ben Hutton at $2,500. Nick DeSimone still looks like an okay play here. That's pretty much where I'm at. I mean, I think, if you want to get different, like play the expensive defenseman tonight, that's probably one of the easier ways to differentiate yourself a little bit.
Let's get to the goalies. Longest show of the year here for the fellas. Okay, Mackenzie Blackwood, I do have drastic volume concerns there. I just like he might face 14 shots tonight. I feel a little bit better about Vasilevsky, so I'll probably play him over Blackwood. Anderson seems risky. Gustafsson, I think, is okay, but I have some small volume concerns there, although Minnesota can be leaky at times. But if it was Walston, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable. So I like Vasilevsky the most, but like I talked about it earlier, really like Joseph Woll. I think he's in a pretty good spot tonight with Marchenko out. I think Swayman's a good cheap play. I think that Shesterkin's a good cheap play. I think there's gonna be a lot of volume there for him. It's gonna be kind of an all-you-can-eat buffet for Igor against the Hurricanes. Who else looks pretty good? Boy, I don't want to say UC Saros, that's for sure. That one came back to bite me the other day. Maybe Spencer Knight seems fine. Anybody else that sticks out to you?
I like the shout on Joseph Woll. Tristan Jarry, I think, is a decent play at $7,600 tonight. I don't mind getting there. Spencer Knight, definitely one of my favorite options on this slate at $7,500. Igor Shesterkin, you mentioned him, 7,100. Certainly going to be a guy who's probably going to see more ownership than what he's currently projected for at 6.5%. He's not been good against Carolina Hurricanes in his career. 5 wins in 14 games, 1 shutout, 291 goals against average at a .902 save percentage. Vladar, I think, is okay at $7K there. Mentioned him earlier. Askarov, an interesting chalk busting option on this slate tonight. Wouldn't feel great about playing him, but I mean, if you're fading the Colorado onslaught tonight, then I think he's a guy who could certainly help you in that regard. But yeah, I kind of agree with you otherwise on these goalies.
I think, make sure I'm not muted. Yeah, I'm not. Okay, Casey DeSmith, I think, is fine too. $7,800, pretty nice price tag against the Seattle Kraken. Again, some slight volume concerns there, obviously, but he's been really, really strong this year at $7,800 in a very winnable game against a team that can't score. I think makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's get to tonight's hat trick challenge. There's gonna be no head-to-head tonight, no daily face-off. We did not have a chance to build our lineups ahead of time. Hat trick pick challenge. Give me. I'm going off the board. He's probably not even gonna shoot enough. I'm going to go to Beckett Seneca anyway.
I'm going to go with Cutter Goat EA.
Oh my God. Now they're going to be 30% rostered. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. Pick up some DFO swag. I got some sweaters on the way as we speak. They were supposed to be here on the 24th. It's now the 26th. Classic Canada Post for you. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, shout out to them for providing projected ownership for today's massive slate, helping us along. Although I do think Anaheim one's going to be much higher owned. Hopefully they aren't. Yeah, the link in the description. Get you $20 off. 20% off Action Network Premium in the description as well. I'm getting delirious here after an hour 17. But yeah, best of luck tonight. Hopefully you return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. If you're American, happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe day tomorrow. Go Detroit Lions, baby. And yeah, we'll just be chilling tomorrow. Day off for us, which is nice. Get to enjoy some football. I love American Thanksgiving as a Canadian. It's nice to just have the day off and just as a Canadian hockey writer, right? We get the day off. It's not for everybody, but for us, we get a day off, which is awesome. So yeah, I love just having beers and watching football all day long. And we'll be back on Friday for another massive 15-game slate. I will say, I am headed to a cottage on Friday. So I am unclear about the internet situation there. I think it's horrific. So there's a chance that there is no show on Friday, but there will be charts. So if you want to join the DFO DFS Discord, I will post the charts there. I will update you guys throughout the day on the internet situation and whether or not I'll be able to pull off a show on Friday. But if not, we'll see you guys back here on Monday. Happy Thanksgiving. Charts will be posted on Friday nonetheless. Cheers. See you soon.
See you soon.
Oh, I guess Tom's right. It's probably not going to be a 15-game slate, right? Because it's going to be some early starts. Let me look at it. So there's a noon game. So yeah, the main slate is going to be, I guess the main slate's only like 1, 2, 3 games. Ha! Sick. So maybe there'll be a show. Maybe there won't be. I don't know. Instead, whatever. We'll see you guys then. Cheers.
Cheers.